Good evening and welcome to All Things Dogwood, the April 10th, 2025 installment of Upstairs 101 series offered by the McCracken County Public Library in Paducah, Kentucky. I'm Carol Ullerich, tonight's speaker. I do not profess to be an expert on dogwoods, but I do have an interest in them. I grow several varieties and I've researched them. My goal is for each of you to leave tonight with a new piece of information, something you did not know before. That will be my measure of success. If you have not done so, please go ahead and take a screenshot of this. This is two separate publications. The top one is being distributed tonight, and it's 3 pages. The bottom one is 33 pages that was not copied. So you can have those with you and read them at your convenience. That might be while you're standing on a nursery parking lot trying to decide, is this the right dogwood for me? So please take that screenshot. A few ground rules for tonight. I have a full presentation which is being recorded and can be accessed in about 2 weeks on the library's McLib TV YouTube channel. I will not take questions during my prepared remarks, but at the conclusion, if you have additional questions, please come to the podium and we can chat. I am a master gardener, but any requests for chemical recommendations will be referred to Mary Dossett. She's the horticulture agent at McCracken County Extension Office on New Holt Road. The handout that is not being distributed to you tonight is called Dogwoods for American Gardens. I do highly recommend that. That has far more information than the smaller 3-page handout. And this happens to come from the University of Tennessee. And I know that UK and Tennessee have a big rivalry in sports especially. So you might be wondering, well, why is she distributing a handout from Tennessee? And it's pretty simple. Because Tennessee is the #1 producer of dogwoods in the United States. And there's an 80% chance that any dogwood sold in the U.S. got its start in Tennessee. Much of the work to improve dogwoods and bring new cultivars to market occurs in Tennessee. So I recommend that one to you. The library has begun a collection of information about dogwoods. This is the first installment. They didn't have any reference material about dogwoods, which seems sad because we do have a dogwood trail. We have lots of dogwoods in the community, and I would think that people want to know about dogwoods, and the fact that you're here tonight indicates that. So you'll now be able to check this book out. Paul Cappiello and Don Shadow are the co-authors. Paul Cappiello is the executive director of Udell Gardens in Crestwood, Kentucky. That's very near Louisville. And he spoke here several years ago at the invitation of the Paducah Garden Club. And Don Shadow, very well known, sadly has passed away, nurseryman. And there are many dogwoods that bear his name. And that's either because he introduced them or his friends and fellow arborists thought so much of him that they named their introduction in his honor. So look for the name Shadow on dogwood trees. I had the opportunity to visit Mr. Shadow's nursery in Tennessee many times as a child, and miss him greatly. So I do hope you take an opportunity to read the book and enhance your knowledge of dogwoods. So let's get started. Here you see the distinction between the Cornus Florida, sounds just like the state name, spelled just like the state name. So these are actually both Cornus Florida, and you see what you probably call petals or blooms or flowers, but that's not true. Those are bracts, B as in boy, R-A-C-T-S, and there are 4 of them on each. And then the yellow center, those little protuberances, those are the actual flowers. And there are 20 or more for each center. So those are the true flowers. So just a little information for you as we're getting started here. Probably the 2 most famous or well-known varieties of dogwoods are the Cornus florida, as you see here, and the Cornus kousa. Cornus kousa is commonly known as the Asian dogwood. You might also see it referred to as Chinese or Korean or Japanese. It is a more recent introduction and is more disease and insect resistant, and it blooms later. And here you see a difference in the 2 bracts. So we've got the Cornus florida on the far side, and you see those red circles. Those are showing you the notches that are in each bract. And then on this side we have the Cornus kousa, and again red circles indicating that there is a point, a definite tip on each one of those bracts. And the leaves on the kousa are more slender, whereas they are fuller and almost heart-shaped on the florida. So, as we approach Easter, let me go back here. As we approach Easter, the dogwood is associated with Easter in multiple ways. It is said the cross on which Christ was crucified was a dogwood. However, the dogwood of yesteryear, which outgrew mighty oaks and cedars and became the tree of choice for construction, is probably not the dogwood of today. Because today, while the dogwood wood is very dense, it's usually a thin-trunked tree with delicate branches. At least that's what we think of as a dogwood. But it's said that Jesus cursed the dogwood never to grow tall enough to support another crucifixion, but instead to grow beautiful bracts to bloom at Easter. And the notches on the Cornus florida bracts are tinged in red, which is said to signify Christ's bloody hands from being pierced as he was nailed to the cross. And the 4 bracts also appear to be in the form of a cross. So the symbolism is clear. So with those provisos in mind, it's time to travel Paducah's Dogwood Trail. We're now in the 2nd week of the trail. Dogwoods have been and remain a vibrant part of Paducah's landscape. They are so important, the city of Paducah dedicated a trail to them more than 6 decades ago. Let's delve into the trail's history. The idea for Paducah's Dogwood Trail was borrowed from Knoxville, Tennessee, where a garden club launched a beautification project in response to a New York City newspaper reporter's declaration in 1947, "Knoxville is the ugliest city I ever saw in America." That pronouncement led to creation of Knoxville's Dogwood Arts Festival, which is still growing strong today. And as an aside, Palestine, Texas also has a Dogwood Festival. But back to Knoxville. In 1964, then Paducah City Commissioner, later Paducah Mayor and Kentucky State Representative for a decade, Dolly McNutt, visited Knoxville for a business meeting. And it happened to coincide with Knoxville's Dogwood Arts Festival, which includes a dogwood trail. Knoxville being further south than Paducah, their dogwoods bloomed earlier than ours. McNutt viewed the Knoxville Trail at night and saw firsthand how the spotlights magnified and enhanced the colorful dogwood bracts. Returning to Paducah excited and highly enthusiastic, McNutt quickly convinced the Paducah Civic Beautification Board, the CBB, to launch the Paducah Dogwood Trail that very year, so a matter of weeks. So that's a valuable lesson. Don't underestimate the ability of women to get things done quickly. But I will note today's CBB does include men. The 1964 trail covered only 2 blocks on Sycamore Drive. No awards were given. but every homeowner participated. And like today, the first trail could be viewed from a car, on foot, or on a bicycle. The trail has grown steadily, and this year's 61st version offers more than 20 miles of spectacular trees and 3 alternate routes of varying length. An evening trolley travels the main route. This year's trail theme is Pink, White, and Light, Paducah in Bloom. To build excitement, the CBB launched several firsts this year. A different route may be traveled each night for a week. A new Facebook page provides details, and a QR code gives access to a running commentary recorded by Ambassadors Roe Morse, Roy Hensel, and Kim Blaisdell, which can be heard on 16 radio stations. Other 2025 firsts are dogwood balloon trees created by Steve Christmas and popcorn. In a departure from prior years, the 2025 trail is not dedicated to an individual, but it is a testament to resilience. Extraordinary wind, historic rainfall, a tornado touching down in the county, a predicted late season freeze this week, an installation of floodgates at the foot of Broadway for the first time since February of 2019 have all made for a memorable spring 2025. Additionally, while dogwoods began blooming in March this year, earlier than usual, they stalled in their tracks, causing the CBB to extend the trail for a second week. The original trail ran for 2 weeks, but in recent years it's been a 1-week affair. To take full advantage of the slowly unfurling dogwood beauty, the CBB reverted to the original 2-week run. 11 awards, including 2 off-trail awards, will be given this year. They've already been selected and will be revealed at an awards presentation and reception at City Hall May 13th at 5 p.m. Off-trail does not mean outside city limits. The CBB is an advisory board to the city, so every winner must be located within the city. And to be considered for an award, no matter how stunning your trees are in daylight, they must be lit to be considered. Kathy Montgomery, with us tonight, is the current board president. Her goal is to have Paducah so lit up it can be seen from the moon. She adds, whatever you have that's blooming, including azaleas, light it up. The Dogwood Trail is not the CBB's only activity. It is updating 4 Welcome to Paducah signs at city entrances. The trail begins at 5:30 each evening, March 30 through April 13. Montgomery suggests starting your tour around 7:15 in the evening for the best show. Judging occurred Monday, April 7th. The Dogwood celebration occurred last night, April 9th, at Dolly McNutt Plaza. Still to come, a bike ride hosted by Bike World on April 13, and a month later on May 13, a reception at City Hall with the awards presentation at 5 p.m. Montgomery praises her young board and its willingness to take action and accomplish much. If you haven't driven the trail, there's still plenty of color, and it would be a fitting finale to tonight's presentation. While dogwoods herald spring in Paducah, they aren't the only early spring bloomers putting on a show. Dogwoods combine well with azaleas, maples, forsythia, weeping cherry, fruiting pears and apples, magnolia, Carria japonica, plum, eastern redbud, serviceberry, Spirea thunbergii ogon, Birkwood viburnum, also known as Korean spicebush with its heavenly aroma, flowering quince, flowering crab, double file viburnum, Japanese maple, mahonia, hosta, daffodils, hellebore. I could go on, but let's get to the dogwoods. According to Steve Edwards of Paducah's Edwards Nursery, buying a dogwood is a purchase for the future. That's his way of saying treat your dogwood well, and it will provide a lifetime of enjoyment, a sentiment I echo. My parents planted dogwoods more than 70 years ago. While not all have survived, I am pleased to say the overwhelming majority are still magnificent. My parents planted Cornus, Florida. That's what was available to the trade at the time. I leaned toward Cornus cusa, An improved variety, more disease resistant, blooms later. Combining Cornus florida with Cornus cusa gives me the best of all worlds, stretching my period of color to several months in combination with other blooming ornamentals. But if you think Cornus florida and Cornus cusa are the only types of dogwood, you are sorely mistaken. These are the 6 types that we'll be talking about tonight. I'm trying to demonstrate to you the breadth of this genus. These 6, Cornus florida and Cornus cusa on the far side, plus Cornus sericea, Cornus mas, Cornus amomum, and Cornus controversa are a tiny sliver of the many dogwoods available. Dogwoods bloom once a year, spring, usually April or May, but 2025 is unusual in Paducah. This year's color parade of white, red, and pink bracts began in Paducah in March, and it will end when dogwood leaves fully emerge. Those light green leaves appearing now will darken with summer's heat. In fall, they'll turn deep red and be followed by the appearance of red berries or drupes, depending on the type of dogwood. So why is a dogwood called a dogwood? Are there dogs involved? Well, the dogwood genus is Cornus, a derivation of the word cornel, which refers to a semi-precious stone. The word cornus actually means of the horn. You can read about that in the book Dogwoods by Cappiello and Shadow I spoke of earlier. There's also a reference to dogwood being a corruption of the word dagwood. That's a piece of wood used to skewer meat. Think of the word dagger. Whatever you choose to believe, Cornus is the genus. Cornus florida has been a staple in West Kentucky landscapes for decades. Here are some interesting dates. According to botanic records kept at Monticello, Thomas Jefferson's home in Charlottesville, Virginia, the flowering dogwood was introduced to American gardens as early as 1731. That's nearly 300 years ago, 294 years to be exact. So why is the genus Cornus? Because in 1753, Swedish botanist Carol Ullerich assigned the name Cornus florida to the tree we commonly know today as the flowering dogwood. In 1771, Thomas Jefferson listed dogwood on a Monticello tree inventory and shipped dogwood seed to a friend in Paris, France. And finally, in 1783, Philadelphia botanist and nurseryman John Bartram offered Cornus florida for sale to the public. The Cornus florida, the flowering dogwood, is hardy in zones 5 through 9. Being here in Paducah in zone 7A, we are smack dab in the middle. The 4 bracts surround 20 or more tiny flowers. You can see them here. The notch in each petal is a good identifier to distinguish it from a cusa. The florida in the name is Cornus florida, referring to the fact that the tree flowers or blooms, and the tree is happiest in partial shade. Being understory trees, dogwoods prefer well-drained, humus-rich, slightly acidic soil and shade. Understory means they don't like being in full sun. But if planted in full sun, as they often are in western Kentucky, they will adapt and survive. But don't expect them to thrive. If they do, that's a bonus. And when the tree canopy falls at the end of summer, dogwoods in the forest benefit greatly from decaying leaf litter. You can supplement your soil with peat moss and pine needles or pine bark. Avoid overwatering. Do not water a dogwood daily. That's a surefire way to kill a dogwood. Established dogwoods can actually tolerate some drought. But why stress them when you don't have to? When soil surface is damp to touch, don't water. If your soil contains clay, realize it may hold more water. Strive for 1 to 2 inches of water weekly. There's no perfect time to water a dogwood. It's mostly a matter of convenience. But to water a dogwood, use a hose. Don't rely on your irrigation system, and focus the water on the ground, on the roots, not the leaves. And don't plant any dogwood in a wet spot. Cornus cusa. It looks daintier to me, but it's considered more rugged than Cornus florida. More white dogwoods are sold, and a drive around Paducah will easily confirm that. Homeowners report more problems with pink varieties. Cusa is a small deciduous flowering tree or multi-stemmed shrub. It grows 15 to 30 feet tall, with a vase-shaped habit in its youth that becomes more rounded when mature. Similar to Cornus florida, its leaves are oval, but narrower and more pointed, with mottled exfoliating tan gray bark, as you see on the side. It blooms later than the flowering dogwood. Cornus cusa is more disease-resistant and cold-hardy than the flowering dogwood, with a tendency for leaf scorch in full sun, especially where the soil dries out. It attracts butterflies and tolerates browsing by deer. In fall, it boasts red drupes. How many of you have heard of the variety Stellar Pink? It's readily available here in Paducah. It is a hybrid, a cross between a Cornus florida and a Cornus cusa. The bracts have the pointed tips, as you see in the yellow circles here. In my experience, these trees are more on the smaller side, perhaps not as big and grand as a Cornus florida, but still stunning specimens. I grow them and thoroughly excited by them. So in addition to the Cornus florida and the Cornus cusa, the other 4 that we're going to address tonight are Cornus sericea, which you may know by its prior name, Cornus stolonifera, the red twig dogwood, Cornus moss, the cornelian cherry or cornel, Cornus amomum, the silky dogwood, and finally Cornus controversa, the giant dogwood. This slide demonstrates the various forms of dogwoods, truly something for every setting. So, the Cornus sericea. This shrub, previously named Cornus stolonifera, is commonly known as the red twig dogwood. It's good for creating a hedge. It can reach 7 to 20 feet tall, or as a focal point. In a departure from other dogwoods, this one loves sun and tolerates shade. It's a landscaper's favorite. That is stunning to me. The red osier is a stunning specimen, but it also comes in neon yellow, orange, and coral. And I hope this next photo translates to you the same way it does to me. You see that swath of neon yellow down the middle, and then you see the red osier on the far right. This is a nursery setting, but it shows the impact the shrub can have. The row of neon, and then in contrast with the brilliant row of blazing red, that is powerful eye candy. Cornus moss, the cornelian cherry. It too is a shrub. It was used to make javelins and spears in 7th century BC. It is tough and adapts to varied growing conditions. It's not picky. It can take full sun or partial shade. It likes well-drained soil, but works in both exposed and sheltered locations. Cornus amomum. This is the silky dogwood. This variety is frequently distributed free when the County Beautification Board or Conservation Board gives away free seedlings. It's happiest near water so think floodplains, streams, and woods. It is multi-stemmed, and if a branch touches the ground, it may root. It gets its name from silky hairs found on leaves and twigs. Its habit is wild and unkempt, with smooth gray bark. It's valuable for both wildlife and pollination. And now, Cornus controversa, nicknamed the wedding cake tree. If there is such a thing as plant lust, this would be mine. The caveat for this specimen is you must have a large yard to accommodate it. It will take sun to partial shade. It grows at a moderate rate. Its dark leaves have a silver undercoat. For me, this tree is truly stunning. Now that you've seen the breadth of the Cornus genus, let's shift our attention to proper care. So I have a question for you. Which photo demonstrates proper mulching? Did I hear none? Very good. The answer is none. This started happening a few years ago. I don't know why, and I don't know where it started. But maybe people just had excess mulch and thought they needed to use it. Do not do this. You are shortening your valuable tree's life. It's called a mulch volcano, and it's very expensive. I suspect that the mulch around that one tree is at least an entire bag, if not more. And if you're buying mulch by the bag, you know that it's not cheap. It's totally unnecessary, it's wasteful, and it's bad practice. So why is it bad? Well, for one thing, you see how high up that mulch is on the tree trunk. That means it's keeping moisture against that trunk, and that trunk is decaying. And then you're going to think in a year or two, well, why did my dogwood die? Well, because of this. You've got trunk decay, it's hiding mischief. There could be voles, there could be moles, there could be mice, all kinds of things happening under there, and you don't know. You can't know. The recommendation is to use a maximum of 2 to 3 inches of mulch, and to only replace it when it decays. There's probably 10 to 12 inches, if not more. So, not a good idea. If you see your neighbors do it, don't repeat it, don't copy it, and maybe find a way to tastefully ask, why are you doing this? Where did you learn to do this? Not a good thing. So, no to the mulch volcano. Water. Supplemental watering is not always needed for a dogwood. If the leaves are wilted, yes, water then. But often the rain received from the sky is perfectly adequate. Don't water dogwoods daily. When mature, they can tolerate a bit of drought. It's during the first 2 years that water must be provided when needed. And watering shouldn't be something you do like clockwork. This is a chore to be done on an as-needed basis, not 15 minutes every day at 7 a.m. That's not appropriate. And when you water plants, use a hose, not your irrigation system. That's for your yard. And focus the water on the ground, the roots, not the leaves or the trunk. In times of drought, both dogwoods and azaleas being shallow-rooted, they will need supplemental water directed at the roots. Again, the goal is 1 to 2 inches of water per week. Don't confuse that with the 2 to 3 inches of mulch. Pruning. Dogwoods don't require much pruning. You would remove anything dead. The photo shows a crossed branch in the upper corner. That's when one branch rubs against the bark of another, either branch or trunk, when the wind blows, and that gradually scrapes away the covering of the bark, causing damage. So you would want to remove crossed branches. Make neat, clean cuts with clean tools. Consider carrying the small packages of alcohol prep pads, because if you have that in your pruning kit, you can immediately clean your pruner, clipper, and that way you're not spreading disease. Dogwood anthracnose. This is a fungal disease. You see the tree now with brown leaves at the top, and then some of the leaves that have been damaged. This can be deadly. You need to avoid cool, wet conditions and don't overwater. There's a theme here. Don't overwater. Don't water every day. Caution about the water. It's not always deadly, but it will weaken the tree and make it more susceptible to other disease. There are fungicides on the market to treat anthracnose if you suspect an issue with any of your trees, but especially dogwoods. Using your cell phone, photograph the full aspect of the tree. Close-up photos are most helpful. Collect samples, branches, and leaves. Place it in a baggie or a trash bag, whichever size you need. And go to the extension office. It's on New Holt Road. It's next to Rivercrest Place, sorry, very near 12 Oaks Baptist Church. And speak with the county extension agent for horticulture, that's Mary Dossett, or her assistant Savannah Gilbert. Mary and Savannah are knowledgeable. They'll diagnose the issue and suggest an appropriate course of treatment. So dogwood anthracnose has been going on for quite some time, but if the quicker you address it, the better off you will be. The dogwood borer. So we need to take a good look at these photos. The photo on the far side, can you see those little dots all along the branch? That's where the borer can enter the plant. And it is a bug that looks like a wasp, but that's the second photo. And then you see it on the far end. So the dogwood borer is one of the most severe items that can happen to a dogwood. It is deadly, and you need to be on top of it as quickly as possible. Don't wait around. It's the most serious enemy of the dogwood. So you see the holes there, you see how pervasive that can be. Again, it's an adult clear-wing moth similar to a wasp, and you see the wasp-like item there in the center. And again, same thing as with the anthracnose. Take photos, fully document what you've got, and go to the extension office. Powdery mildew. This has been associated with dogwood since 1994, according to Tennessee State University. It's usually found between late May and first frost. High humidity and dry leaves create the ideal storm for this. The damage may be primarily cosmetic, but it will spread if not quickly addressed. So speed for all of these items is critical. To minimize the opportunity for powdery mildew, water plants at ground level rather than from above where that splatters. Not a good thing. Also watering from above may create more humidity, which would encourage growth of the mildew. Improve air circulation with proper pruning. Select mildew-resistant varieties, and if planting items susceptible to mildew infestation, plant in sun to allow time for them to dry out. So you've got powdery mildew, anthracnose, and the dogwood borer. Those are the big three. To summarize, start with healthy plants so you don't bring disease to your landscape. Water during drought, but focus on roots, not foliage. Apply 2 to 3 inches of mulch to keep the roots cool. Hand weed around your plants. Avoid the mower and the weed trimmer because injuries from those 2 items can invite fungus and can create openings for the bugs to enter. So a little hand weeding is a good thing. Inspect your trees often and seek extension office advice when you notice issues. So if you're thinking about adding a dogwood to your landscape, these are some items to consider. Begin with a healthy specimen. If it doesn't look good on the sales lot, don't think it's going to improve in your care. Start with something that looks good. Buy from a reputable seller. Choose the proper site to plant. If it's a big sinkhole, if it's a water hole, probably not a good idea. Properly prepare the planting hole, 2 to 3 inches larger than the root ball and big enough to accommodate the new tree and all the dirt that you have removed from that hole. When transporting a plant to its new home, if you are in an open bed truck, put a tarp over that plant so that it's not being blown around in the air and drying out. And remove the tarp when you reach your destination. Water well and when needed. Mulch with 2 to 3 inches of organic matter. Stake or brace the tree from wind and control insects and disease immediately. Don't expect the same amount of bloom every year. It goes in cycles. If your tree exhibited profuse color this year, it probably won't be a showstopper next year. The dogwood borer occurs under the bark. You saw the picture. And it happens over time, not overnight. But again, you need to address it quickly. A few practical tips. We tend to be a society that moves. Do the future purchasers of your property a favor. Keep a record for you and for them of what's in your yard and why it's there. Same for your family. They may want to know the real story of why is that tree sitting there? I run into it every time I back out of the driveway. Keep a record for you and for them of what's in your yard and why it's there. Was a tree planted for Mom's birthday? Was a tree planted in honor of somebody's graduation? You know that today, but in 5 years or 10 years, or maybe even in a day, your family doesn't know that. That's an invaluable history to pass along and to have for your family. Anybody know what happened today? The Masters, that's right. So this is hole number 13 at Augusta National. But did you know that this golf course was once a plant nursery called Fruitlands? And the legacy has another important aspect for this program tonight because are there any golfers in here? One? Okay. What kind of a driver do you use? Titanium? Do you know what it's made of? Titanium. Well, before all of these metals came about, the premier item was dogwood for those clubs. It's very shock resistant, very dense, long lasting. And you may be, at some point in your career, were carrying a lump of dogwood around in your bag and didn't even realize it. also used to make bows for archery purposes. So just a little bit there. So that's the information for the golfers and the archers. Free soil tests. Some of you may not know that here in McCracken County since 2020 and COVID, you can have 7 free soil tests. If you were to buy them, it would be about $50. So this is a free item for you that is courtesy of the Extension District Board. So take advantage of that. It's 7 free soil tests each year. And if you're considering planting dogwoods, you need to know what your pH is. And that's an excellent opportunity to do that. So, one last chance to take a screenshot of this if anybody came in late. There are 2 documents. There's one that's up here, and then there are both of them you can access online, and I recommend them to you. So if you've not had a chance to take a screenshot, please do that. So thank you for coming tonight. I hope you are taking home at least one kernel of information you didn't know when you arrived, and thank you very much.